Hi everybody, welcome to my channel and welcome back if you're returning. It's Elizabeth and tonight I'm going to do a bit of a different reading. I'll use cards just for good measure because I like having cards in my hands and they're a good reference point for some of the thoughts that are there, and the tarot kind of helps me to get them out. But if you were attracted to this title, I think this will be interesting. This is not an astrology reading at all. It's really just a focus on one particular aspect that we all have inside of our natal charts that I feel is very, very important. Ever since I first discovered that this was a thing, I've been talking about it a lot because I think it's important. So whenever I have an opportunity, I bring up Chiron to people because Chiron is important in our natal chart. It does have sort of like a planetary influence. Chiron is an asteroid and it has an irregular orbit. So it doesn't orbit the way that all of the planets orbit in a more sort of linear fashion, meaning that you know how many days or how many months or how many years it takes a planet to orbit around the sun. Chiron is a bit more erratic, and it's linked back to the ancient Greek mythology of the centaur and the centaurs. So Chiron, the asteroid, was placed inside of the Centaurus constellation by Zeus, evidently, and you can go and read about the mythology behind Chiron if you want to, so I'll try not to get too much into that. But Chiron was a centaur who was unlike the other centaurs because he was not really warlike. He became a healer. He was also hit with a poison arrow, and so he was immortal, meaning he would live forever. And he would live forever with this wound that he could not heal. However, he was a healer, unlike the other centaurs, so he was different, and he could heal everybody else. He was a healer. So they call Chiron the wounded healer. And where Chiron falls in your natal chart shows you where your deepest triggers are, your core wounding. And it's something that you really do carry around with you for life, but you learn how to transmute it. If it's something that you're on a path towards doing or you consciously want to do, you can transmute it and then it becomes your superpower. So I'm always interested in anything that helps us to elevate, to grow, and to really embody our power, really. So that's why Chiron is important to me. And I had a revelation the other night because I was thinking that Johnny Depp was probably a Chiron in Pisces. And when I looked at the year of his birth, which was 1963, June 9th to be precise, Chiron was indeed in Pisces, so the last sign of the zodiac, Pisces. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight and what the significance of that is, and even how when he met Amber Heard, it was a very significant time for him involving his natal Chiron. And it even links in with his Saturn return. So really interesting stuff. We will pull some cards as I'm talking. So the sign of Pisces is the 12th sign of the zodiac. And when Chiron is in Pisces, some people call it the wound of faith. But, and I get that because this is where our faith is really tested, our faith in the universe, our faith in love, our faith in family, our faith in parents, all of that. But I think that the wound of empathy, so I was looking at different people's sort of titles for Chiron and Pisces. And when I saw the wound of empathy, it hit me. It hit me hard. And I was like, that's the one. That's it. So here we have Johnny Depp, who was born a Gemini, June 9th. However, he's a minimal Gemini, meaning he doesn't really have any other Gemini in his chart. He's got like some earth placements, some fire placements, some water placements. But the only thing that's in Gemini is his sun. So he's a minimal Gemini. And this Piscean energy really stands out to me for Johnny Depp because Pisces is all encompassing. What Chiron and Pisces have in common is that they're both dualistic in nature. So Chiron being the centaur, which is the half man and the half beast. So even the mythology of and the archetype of Chiron speaks to our humanity, the half man, and then, which has a higher level of consciousness, if you will. It's able to think for itself, our mind and all of that. Our consciousness is elevated, supposedly, from some of the more animalistic nature of things on earth. But then the beast part of us is the animalistic part of us, right? The centaur, half man, half horse, half man, half beast. And then Pisces is dualistic as well because it's the two fish that swim in opposite directions. So it's literally light and shadow. It's any opposite that you can think of. That's Pisces. It's all encompassing. It contains really everything. You know, it's pretty intense for all of you Pisces out there. Pisces sun or Pisces moon or even a Pisces rising, you know what that is. Your North Node is in Pisces. So this is where Johnny Depp gets his creative abilities from in many ways. I'm sure there are other things in his chart. I'm not looking really at the rest of the chart. I'm just looking at Chiron. Sorry, my nose is itching a little bit. So I'm really just going to be looking at this Chiron placement and why it's so important. I have notes here so that I would sort of stay on track here. His Chiron is in the 8th house along with Saturn. And this 8th house placement is typically where Pluto sits. It's the house of Scorpio. It's the house of Pluto. It's the house of transformation. It's the house of sexuality, the occult, the mystery, death and rebirth. It can be a house of darkness. Think about Halloween, All Saints Day, Day of the Dead. It's that time of year, very mysterious, lots of occult stuff happening there. So you take his Chiron in Pisces, which is, really, really dualistic. It contains everything. It's art, it's poetry. It's all of, it's the dark arts even, but it's also the light arts as well. It's all of it. Pisces is also, it's a house where Neptune traditionally resides. And so it contains fantasy, illusion. It's where we can be delusional, but it's where we have this vivid, productive imagination. It's where our world is colorful. It's all colors. It's where we are deeply poetic in the sign of Pisces, particularly with Chiron. So what I get from all of this, going back to his childhood, and this is something I really wanted to talk about with Chiron and Pisces. So we know that Johnny Depp had a very difficult upbringing. We know that his mother was very ill. We know that his mother was cruel. We know that he was hurt. We're going to use the word hurt. We know that she was on a lot of medication, and we know that he kind of observed how when his mother would take her medication, maybe a half an hour later, she was calmer. She seemed calmer. And that was like, whoa, for him. He started taking some of her pills when he could. And I think he said he was around 7 years old, maybe started drinking alcohol at 10 years old. That's Chiron and Pisces right there. So the core wounding, the thing that triggers him the most is really pain. It's really pain. Now, you could say that for all of us. Our core wounding is pain. It's what triggers us the most. But in the sign of Pisces, this is where the dreamer is born. This is where the poet is born. This is where the imagination is born. This is where he gets into all of the light, all of the shadow. This Pisces is the sign that in the 12th house, so Pisces rules the 12th house. It's the house of imprisonment. It's the house of drunkenness. So it absolutely can indicate where we become imprisoned by these things. And this is absolutely where a child can become dependent upon substances at a very young age. So here's where it gets interesting for me about this wound of empathy. So we know that he is a very kind and sensitive soul. Pisces is highly sensitive, highly intuitive, and probably the most psychic sign in the zodiac. Psychic, empathic, the healer. Really, a lot of Pisces they can become healers, energetic healers, doctors, nurses, people of service. People who want to help other people heal. So because he has this natural capacity towards empathy and compassion, like deep, deep empathy, he can actually feel the suffering of other people. So as it relates to his mother, he felt her suffering. So even though she was hurting him, he still felt her suffering first and foremost, perhaps even more than he would feel his own. And that's where the deep wounding begins. Because for him, we see where throughout his life he has this propensity towards expressing rage in a way where he will destroy things around him. I believe him when he said, I have never put my hands on a woman in my life, and I will never put my hands on a woman in my life. I believe him when he said that. So this is someone, because of their empathy, because they can feel the pain of others, they have a difficult time with energetic boundaries, with standing up for themselves, with saying, I am not going to let you hurt me. Stop hurting me. This is wrong. For asserting themselves in that way. This is someone with a Chiron in Pisces who will really just energetically absorb like a sponge everyone else's suffering and everyone else's hurt, and internalize it and become very creative. So there may absolutely, this is where some of the creative things are birthed and are born. But when you mix that in with sort of Pisces is where you can drown. You know, you can drown in illusion, in pretending like these things aren't even real, in, you know, illusion and delusions, and where it's internalized, and where then later on these things, you can explode, and you will sort of become a force of destruction if need be, around, you know, things in the physical world, like inside of your home or something like that. You'll smash up the place, especially when triggered, especially when triggered, and especially when not in a time of sobriety. So it's right there, this wound of empathy. It's also where there can be, on the flip side, where you go into a state of avoidance, like avoiding everything, and that sort of shutting everything off, shutting everything out, the numbing, you know, the numbing that you can have with substances. So whatever those are, where you can then become sort of numb and sort of swinging back and forth between being apathetic and running away. This is where you will run away from the wound instead of facing it head on. So it's just an intensity of emotions, and it's an intensity of senses. So this is someone who all of his senses are amplified, okay? All of them. He has very amplified senses, which is why he is who he is. And those of you who do astrology and have looked into his chart, you'll see all of the other placements, all of his 10th house placements. You know, he's got a lot going on in the 11th house, his sun and Mercury and Venus. He's got a Mercury-Venus conjunction in his 10th house, which is career and reputation. So a lot of you will see other things, but again, I'm really focusing on Chiron, and I'll tell you why. Wait until I get to it. Just wait. So his own wounds are intensified throughout his life. He's someone who throughout his life will be drawn to trauma. He's someone who will easily trauma bond with other people, meaning you feel this intense connection with someone else because you're bonding through your traumas. It's like subconsciously, because that's Pisces, is the collective subconscious. Subconsciously, you're going to be drawn to people who have a similar traumatic experience, and where you will bond through that trauma subconsciously. So, okay, it's also the victim and the martyr. So yes, this is someone who's been victimized, who is a victim, 100%. And then it's someone who becomes the martyr. So this is someone who will then come to the rescue. They want to save other people. I feel like it's also premature forgiveness. And actually, my sister and I had a conversation about this about a week and a half ago, and she pointed it out. Because I sort of, for myself, I lean more towards this sort of the martyr. I forgive very quickly. This is something that I've had to work on, a lack of energetic boundaries, which I very much have now. So feelings of insignificance from his parents. And I do feel that he ran away from his wound. He ran away from it and he did not deal with it. He didn't have the capacity or the skills, perhaps, to deal with it, and really decided to forgive his mother. Now, the father energy, you know, he was born with his Saturn in retrograde, and it's his Saturn sits closely with his Chiron. So these two sit closely together, and his Saturn is in Aquarius and was retrograde, and that goes back to the father energy of his father abandoning them. And so someone with a Chiron in Pisces can create this hard shell of cynicism around themselves, and can be avoidant, and can be just so overwhelmed by their heightened senses, emotions, feelings, all of it, that they will become avoidant and run away. And like I was saying, the rescuer. So they swing back and forth, you know, between all of this. And what happened, what I believe happened for him, was that, you know, he was swept away by Hollywood. He, with the Piscean energy, had a gift of poetry and music and art and all of that, and went off to pursue that at a young age. And then he became a star, because that was written in his destiny. He became a star. But he didn't truly address the wounding. And of course, rising to fame at such a young age and being in the spotlight and having that life doesn't leave a lot of time for self-reflection. So there's this whole reading or this whole talk here is not about shame or blame or anything. It's just for awareness. And I also hope that for those of you who aren't familiar with your Chiron and you are on a healing journey, that maybe this will prompt you to look at where your Chiron was, the placement, what house it's in, when your Chiron return is, what your Chiron is asking you to heal throughout this lifetime. So that's also one of my hopes, is that for you, this may be helpful for you in some way, because those of you who, you know, we've been connecting and meeting each other through this whole Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, there's something that we're all bonded with. And so we're here to get to know each other. Sorry about that. And help each other a little bit. Yeah, so it really was a big deal. A lot of you, trigger warning, are not going to like this tarot deck, but I love it. Okay, I love it. And it's my channel. Okay, anyway, so this is the Deviant Moon Tarot, and it's dark. This is what I use for my shadow work. So we're seeing the tarot, the Tower, Mercury retrograde. We're seeing the Tower with the Emperor, and this, I feel, was the wound around the father. Like, his father left, and it was like, holy shit, you know, oh my God, I can't even believe it. So his dad leaving left him alone in this crazy townhouse with mom, who was the moon. She would represent the moon energy in his life, the, just the shadow and the darkness and all of that. So those are the cards that wanted to come out. Anyway, so getting back to not being able to really self-reflect and not taking the time to do the inner work in a big way. Obviously, he was cast into Hollywood, thrown into Hollywood, rose to fame, rose to stardom, and had a lot of success. Obviously became, just this legend, just epic, just amazing. And that's his rising or ascendant in Leo, which is 0 degrees. So I am going to talk just a little bit about the astrology, but his rising sign or his ascendant is 0 degrees Leo. So 0 degrees is the miracle number. It's the God number. It's literally where that sign is its most potent, most powerful, full force. So he is meant to be that person. He's meant to be the king. He's meant to have self-control. He's really meant to rise into that that divinity. It's royal. Leo is, the king of the zodiac, the king of the jungle. And, people hear him roar, and many people have seen him roar. So anyway, I just thought that that was important as well. So you want to know what happened? Okay, so you get a Chiron return in your life, and it can take until you are 40 years old, because Chiron shows us that healing itself is not linear. It's not on a set time schedule. Sorry, I think there's a party in my neighborhood. Chiron shows us that our healing is not linear, Chiron, you know, it's not like, oh, 2 years and it goes to the next sign. It has a name, but it's not regular. So you have a Chiron return in your life. You may even live long enough to see 2 Chiron returns in your life. So I believe it was in 2010 when Chiron made its way back to Pisces. So when your Chiron return comes, many of you know your Saturn return, your Jupiter return. It means that something's going to happen. It's going to come up again. So your wounding is going to come up again. And it's not that it didn't before in the past, but this time it really came up. And that was when he met Amber Heard. So his Chiron return comes around. He meets Amber Heard. I think Chiron even went back retrograde into Aquarius for a few months, and then it just landed in Pisces, and it stayed there until I believe 2017. 2017 until it moved into Aries. So for the entirety of his relationship with Amber Heard, he was in his Chiron return. And it took me 20 minutes to get this out, but it's still important to note that. So when we've all been feeling this and we've all been seeing this, and he even knows it, I married my mother, he said. Oh my God, I married my mother. Yes, he did. Because it was meant to bring all of this up for healing. His wound of empathy, his wound of faith. I'm pretty sure that he is atheist or agnostic, but he's very spiritual. He's very spiritually connected through the arts, through music, through poetry, literature, all of that. So that's where his faith is. And this is where this entire relationship with Amber Heard was really there to trigger these wounds. His mother also died during his Chiron return. I mean, you really can't make that up. That's when his mother died, because she was the biggest part of his wounding. She died during his Chiron return. He married and divorced Amber Heard during his Chiron return. And this whole thing happened during that time when everything started really, like the shit really hit the fan, during his Chiron return. So one of you had asked, and I know a lot of us have been talking about this, is Johnny Depp going to recover? Is he going to, be able to heal in a real way? I believe yes. Like, I just keep nodding my head. Yes, he is, because he's had no choice but to face these things. I think that those audio recordings were so important. And you could also see even inside of the audio recordings where, he really did try. His way of conversing with her was all we and I. He wasn't someone, it was like you all the time. He was really trying to do the work, but with that type of a relationship and someone like that, you will just go in circles. It's just in circles, and it gets worse and worse and worse. It's a downhill spiral. We all know what happened. So it's not so much about talking about what happened, but yes, this is a time of great transformation for him and recovery and healing. Now, what also happened was that because again, Chiron has a longer transit, and through Pisces, it was, I don't know, I want to say 7 years maybe for Chiron to pass through Pisces before it went into Aries. Yes, see, this is why sometimes I want to pick from the deck just a little bit, because we get the star there. So this is his Saturn return in Aquarius. So yes, this is bringing healing. So you get your Chiron return and you're going through it, and all the triggers are coming up, and it's like the wounding, it's just reopening all the wounds, throwing salt on it. I mean, literally, he was wounded for real. He was definitely wounded physically, emotionally. He was numbing himself out. His substance abuse was getting worse and worse and worse. And so he was really going into it. It was like, I'm going to hit absolute rock bottom inside of this so that I can pick myself up and get back up again. And then Saturn comes in, and that's like the father, you know, Saturn's the dad. It's a harsh energy. I mean, Saturn as a mythology, he like ate all of his children. So it's, you know, kind of sick. But anyway, this is all in natal, inside of his natal chart. It's all in the 8th house of death and rebirth and all of that. It's the Plutonian energy. And his Aquarius natally is retrograde. So this is very internal for him as well. And this is karma, you know, playing out here. So he is closing out karmic contracts, karmic agreements, soul agreements on a karmic scale that a few of us have been talking about. And I appreciate those of you who can sort of see the higher perspective of what some of the soul agreements are, you know, those soul agreements that we all have with each other. It's sort of the non-duality, and it's where we kind of see where on the higher levels we agree to play these roles for each other in each other's lifetimes. And I know that's a hard pill for some people to swallow, because yes, we're down here in the 3D inside of this physical vessel with all these physical things and reputations and money and careers and other people that are being hurt and all of that. So I get it. Anyway, so his Saturn comes into play. They, you know, the divorce happens, and he's still in his Saturn return. So it was like Chiron return, then it overlaps into the Saturn return. And this is sort of where he's at now. He's out of his Chiron return, and he has been for several years. So it's almost like when he filed for divorce, his Chiron return ended, or even just a bit before that. So kudos to him, because he's right on track. He's right on schedule there. And that's why astrology is so fascinating, because it highlights cycles. It's as above, so below. So the other thing that I wanted to mention that I think is really good news is that he was born with his natal Jupiter in Aries in the 9th house. So he is in his Jupiter return as of right now. So beginning of May, Jupiter entered Aries. I have my Jupiter is in Aries as well. My midhaven is in Aries, and so is his. My rising is in Leo, and so is his. So I thought that was kind of funny. Him and I have a few similar placements. Anyway, so he's in his Jupiter return now. And so he's been through the Chiron return. He's been through the worst of it. That's what I want to say. He's been through the worst of it. That's why we saw the star come out. So this is renewed faith and hope and healing. And it's where you become your most authentic self in the star. She's naked. She's got nothing to hide. The skeletons have come out of the closet. And she doesn't have to hoard anything. She's pouring the water out, pouring her vessel out onto the earth, into the stream, because she knows that she is going to be replenished and taken care of by the universe, her highest self. This is where you connect with your higher path, your highest self, all of it. Beautiful. So he's in his Jupiter return until next year in the month of May. So he's got 1 year of Jupiter in Aries, expanding his life in the natal 9th house, and that's the house of faith. So I feel that this is where the cycles in his chart are saying that this is where he's going to have his faith renewed. You know, is he going to start going to church and, you know, get down on his knees and pray? Probably not. It's not about that, though. You know, he may have a resurgence, though, of, you know, connecting more with the lighter side of who he is, the higher octaves of Pisces. The higher octaves of Pisces, which is, you know, all of the creativity and the imagination, and seeing his sensitivity as a gift and not as a curse. Because I know this is a man who has seen his own sensitivity as a curse, and where he will have stronger energetic boundaries. He also, because one of the things that he really does have to overcome is how to channel his anger healthily, in a healthy way. And a lot of us have that. I know I've had that in my life. not to the extreme that he has, but I smashed up a few things, let me tell you, especially when I was younger and I felt betrayed. So I can relate to him in a lot of ways, not so much with the substances, although, you know, I've taken my fair share. And I've had a lot of that in my family. So in my immediate family, I've bore witness to that. And I know one of you was sort of mentioning about we can't excuse him, you know, for this, that, and the other thing, for destroying things, for scaring people, for all of that. No, we can't, but we can also understand where it comes from and to see where it was never his intention to hurt anyone. And from a, you know, so do with that what you will. I'm not going to get too much into that. I feel that that would be a topic for another time, maybe for a live chat or something like that. Believe me, I'm not excusing it because I've lived through that. So we will get to know each other better. Okay, I promise. Anyway, so the Jupiter return is going to bring a lot of growth and expansion in his life, a lot of good luck. So this is actually like, I feel like this is his break. He's going to get some good luck. Now, how is the jury going to rule? Honestly, you guys, I don't know. You know, it really could go any way. I want to say that one of the most concerning things for me is actually, even though they're not a couple anymore and there seems to have been a rift, is Amber Heard's ties to Elon Musk. That sort of has been just a light bulb, a red flag for me, something to watch out for. Elon Musk is a lot of things, you know, and in some ways, and in many ways, is a truly great man with great ideas. But there's still something from a psychic perspective and a galactic perspective. There's things with him where the fact that Amber got involved with him right after Johnny Depp was like really fascinating to me, because I'm like, what kind of black magic is this woman spinning? Like, there's something, it's all very interesting, and I will definitely be getting deeper into all of this at some point. So again, not that Elon Musk has any control over the jury or the judge. I sure hope not, and I don't think he is, okay? I'm not saying that. But what I mean is that energetically, from an energetic standpoint, from the universe, you know, sort of what's written already, I don't know. It could go either way. That being said, and I want him to have justice, you know, in any way, shape, or form that is most beneficial for him. So 100%. However, okay, so we got the King of Pentacles. So his money is going to be just fine. You know, he's going to have every opportunity inside of the physical world to make money, to create money. It's all there for him. And that's his Capricorn moon, right? That's his Capricorn moon right there. You know, someone who really is very giving and hardworking and wants to provide for others. He's still going to be that person. But this Jupiter in Aries is bringing him good luck for the next year. So I think I just kind of wanted to end it there. I hope that this was helpful. Let's just pull a couple of cards. And I know some of you are hating this deck, but I'm sorry. I love this deck. And this is where, you know, I am a lot of love and light, but I also really do get into some of the darker stuff. Because I have North Node in Scorpio. So if anyone wants to know what deck this is the Deviant Moon Tarot, and this is by Patrick Valenza. He's really amazing. He's got an amazing Instagram account. He he's been making these drawings since he was a child. And actually, why I was drawn to this deck, I guess I just kind of want to mention, is that I grew up on Long Island in New York, and do you remember, for those of you who are old enough, back in the day when they had psychiatric institutions all over the United States, for those of you who are American? And then I believe it was in the 80s and into the 90s, they started deinstitutionalizing the country. So they were shutting down all of the psychiatric hospitals all over the country, like the loony bins, all of those, you know, terrible things that people used to call them. We really need to learn how to deal with mental illness a lot better, just as a society. Anyway, So there was a place that was about 30 minutes from the town I grew up in, on the North Shore of Long Island, and it was called Kings Park, and I forget the name of the psychiatric center. It was very well known. It was on a really, really big piece of property, beautiful, beautiful area. And one summer I was in college, my first or second year of college, I got a nanny position for a family. And I didn't know when I applied for the job, but they were still living on the property that was the psychiatric center that had been shut down. And I remember hearing all the ghost stories about this place. It was haunted, the property was haunted, this, that, and the other thing. And anyway, what happened was the father, there were two kids and they were darling, so sweet. I nannied for them for about 6 weeks over the summer. And the father was the last psychiatrist to have worked there. He helped to shut the place down. And sorry, I keep saying So what happened was they still lived on property. They had a beautiful house on property. It was away from the main buildings, but it was still on the property. And they were sort of like groundskeepers, if you will. So I spent like, it was 5 days a week that I was nannying, and, just a typical nanny position, maybe 6 hours a day, 7 hours a day. And I remember strolling through the grounds with the children basically all summer. And there were wild raspberry bushes, and, they had a big backyard of their own and a really nice house. So we didn't have to, we didn't go towards the building. I wasn't about to take 2 young children out to the building. I think I was only like 18 years old myself. Point to my story for those of you who are still around. I didn't understand why I was so drawn to this deck. And this is sort of the energy of Johnny and his mother. That's it right there. Sort of mommy dearest. This is the 5 of Cups here. So this was even his relationship, how he felt in his relationship with Amber. I'm just going to say it right there. And you can see her hand is drawing down the moon. So it's sort of like the lunacy that goes along with that. And this is the love that was withheld from him, throughout his life. Anyway, so we'll put that away. But what drew me to this deck, so when I realized it, there was something that really drew me to this deck. And I realized that the man who created it, a lot of his pictures inside of this book and in the tarot were based on that particular psychiatric center and hospital. It was in Kings Park, New York. So you could look it up, Kings Park Psychiatric Center. God, I can't remember what the name of it was. If my sister happens to watch this, I know that she'll remember it. So I really just was so drawn to this deck and to the works of this man, because it's darker, but it's still beautiful. And I think that that's something that I want to bring to all of you, is to hold space for some of that. I'm super all about my angels and fairies and unicorns and rainbows and all of that. But there is this side of me, Pilgrim State. Thank you. So there is this side of me that is very drawn to the occult. I'm very much into true crime and psychology and serial killers and what makes people do the things that they do, and the occult and all of that. So they used to call it Boogeyman Island, and I'm getting truth bumps all over my legs. So this was about 20 minutes from where I grew up, 30 minutes, 20 minutes from where I grew up, Pilgrim State. And I was one of the last people to work on this property. And I was only 18 years old. And it was because that doctor had hired me to nanny for his children for the summer, him and his wife. So here's some pictures of it. So a lot of the images from this tarot deck are actually based on some of that. And you can see Patrick Valenza, he's been drawing since he was a young boy. I had to get the book because I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. Look at the Devil card here. Yeah, I know some of you are probably squirming and you're like, Elizabeth, stop. Anyway, so that was the message. That was the reading. It wasn't even a reading. I like to bring awareness to Chiron wherever I can. I know some people aren't too into Chiron, but I am. So let me just get a closing message for everyone, and we'll just use the Deviant Moon Tarot and see what the closing messages are for everybody. Wow. Okay, there's so many here. So I think we'll just look at them. We got the King of Cups with the Hermit. So I think the message here is don't hide from your feelings. We're talking about all of this Chiron energy. So this is really allow yourself to feel the feelings. Know thyself. The time is now to know thyself. Know where your triggers are. Know when you're being triggered. Don't hide from them. Face it head on. And that there's support from other people. We can all work together on this. We have soul agreements with other people, and that could be the people that are the closest to you. This is your partner. So this is definitely a time not to hide how you're feeling, to really be open and honest about your own wounds, your wishes, your nightmares, your dreams, all of it. Allow yourselves to be vulnerable with the people that are most important to you. I love this 10 of Cups energy here that came out with that full moon. So beautiful. So this is love that is reciprocated. This is joy and contentment, and just, you know, to give up the fighting, really, to release this need for conflict. I think that this was something, you know, like I was talking about the trauma bonding between an empath and, let's say, an energy vampire. There's the trauma bonding, there's the magnet, they're like soul magnets when we're not healed. So I do feel that Johnny is going to really put this behind him, and we all can too, because it's also a mirror for ourselves, our own lives. So those were the messages. I hope that you enjoyed this strange reading. I know it was a bit different. I have started your June readings sign by sign, so look out for those. And I'm going to Los Angeles next week, and I'm going to have some really nice surprises for everyone. So thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful weekend. Take really good care of yourselves. Drink your water, get your sunshine, do your shadow work, and I will talk to you all soon. Namaste.